we show up and we belong in this space, and I appreciate everyone being here every day for that reason. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
I'm going to step in here real quick to say what Lieutenant Governor Caitlin Montgomery said earlier is true. It is very unusual. Guys, don't leave yet quite yet. I'm not saying it. I know. I get you. One step. Thank you. Because Daisy is here representing providers, but oftentimes providers can't be here. And you guys were able to leave today under your leadership, which we appreciate so significantly. But we also know that there's a lot of work to be done for y'all too. We're working on it. We're advocating for it. We want those pay scales to go up. We know the need that is there. We know the hours that are being worked. And we appreciate that, again, the collaboration, the continued communication. And I just want you to know that, like, on every tough day, for every tough conversation, we see you and we hear you too.
All right, we are going to welcome our next panel. Oh, and thank you all for being here. We're sorry to see you go. We appreciate you. All right, so come on up. I guess it's my turn. I just took you something. Hello. Are you guys all set?
Yes.
All right. So, I'm Kirsten Olson. I am the CEO at Children and Families First, and you got to meet a couple of members of my team who operate our resource and referral helpline, among about 1 million other things. And at CFF, our whole goal, everything that we do, is focused around helping kids and families thrive. And as you've heard today, early childhood is where the best work happens. We know that those first 5 years are so crucial for building the brains and bodies of kids to set them up for success for a lifetime, and that's why we're so committed to early childhood, because we know that it's the foundation for thriving. And so I'm really happy to be here. I'm moderating this panel, and I'm going to ask our panel, which is a great group. We have providers, we have parents, we have some folks entering the field, and we're going to talk about our experiences. So I'm going to ask you first to just introduce yourselves and tell everyone why you're here today.
Okay, hi, good morning. I'm Diara Robinson. I currently attend Delaware State University. I am a junior majoring in pre-education, birth through second. So this is just important and an honor to be here, to be able to advocate. This is something that I'm very passionate about and something that I look forward to creating a future and being able to just speak up for those who can't. I want to speak for the families who can't help themselves, and I want to speak for the students who can't either. So that is why I'm here.
So my name is Melanie Thomas Price, and I own the Leap of Faith Child Development Center, which is in Wilmington, Delaware. I am licensed for about 166 kids at one time. I've been in business since 2004 now. So I've been able to see a couple of administrations. Amen. We've been doing this for a while now. And just to give you some backdrop after listening to everyone, I remember I started out as a teacher. I had taught 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th grade. And I saw a societal problem while teaching. I saw that my entire classroom had single mothers. And the majority of my class was special education. And I learned that those mothers needed help before school age. So that was my mission. That was the reason why I left public school. And that was many years ago. I saw the need, and that need was that single mothers at the time, they needed help before school age. I remember every one of those meetings that I would go to concerning No Child Left Behind. And many times, the child left behind was African American boys. So my drive was to leave the school district, and it took a leap of faith. That's the reason why I named my center a leap of faith. It really took a leap of faith for me to leave the center, to leave the school district where I was making pretty good money. I was off on summers. So it took a lot for me to leave, but I did leave, and I'm so glad I did today.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ann Atkinson. I am the owner and administrator down in Sussex County for Little Red Hen Nursery and Preschool. I basically started in the education field since 1982, so I've been around a long time. I started as a teacher back in New York. We moved to Maryland and started working in Delaware, Delaware at Little Red Hen in 1988. And at that time, it wasn't as large as it is now. We have enrollment of 139, but we're licensed for 217. We would never go to 217. My husband and I purchased the building and Little Red Hen itself in 1999. And that's when I stopped being the working director and became the administrator and owner of everything. And I miss being in the classroom, but I love seeing those little ones daily and working with the parents. But the best thing for us down in our little town of Delaware is that many of the children that are coming to us have parents who came to us when they were young. So we know we're doing something right, and we just want to continue that. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Andrea Benson. I'm a proud mama of a 4-year-old pre-K student at Lake Forest East Elementary. Her name is Music, and I just love her so much. I'm your, I guess, just a mama, local bartender, front of the house server at 2 part-time establishments. I find myself working maybe 12 to 17 days straight sometimes, all the while trying to maintain my baby's schedule. So I just stand in representation, I guess, of mamas who are struggling to maintain their schedule along with their child's schedule, and then, weighing out budgets to just help her flourish, I guess, pre-K.
And just to be clear, there is no such thing as just a mama.
I'm just a senator.
I'm going to ask this question to Melanie and Ann, and I'm going to ask the other panelists to kind of weigh in. What are you hearing from the families that you serve around their issues with childcare, finding childcare, waiting lists, costs? What kinds of things are coming up with your families?
Well, especially down in Delaware, we are the only center in Delaware, and we are working with 2 states. So we have Delaware and Delaware, Maryland. So we're dealing with about 6,000 is the population, but the parents who cannot receive purchase of care are on the Maryland side. So we end up losing those children because Maryland and Delaware, of course, do not work together. The other major problem that we're seeing is that there isn't enough infant care. We're fortunate. We have a building where right now we have 8 infants. We can also take an extra 4 if we have qualified staff. But I have 16 families waiting to come in for infant care. So that's one of the major issues that we're seeing down our way.
And we're seeing a lot of the same thing. What I've seen in Wilmington is 3 of the biggest centers in the city have closed. And that's a lot of children that are looking for care. So we have been getting a lot of calls about, families trying to access quality care. And many times we cannot take them because we are full as well. So that is not easy, especially when you look at the amount of centers that are beginning to close. So we're taking a look at those kind of things. I've been getting a lot of calls from parents with children with disabilities. And they cannot find adequate care. I had a family that called me last week, a mother, and she said, I had my child at the center and he just didn't do well. And I heard a lot about you. I wanted to see if you had any space available. She said, I felt when I dropped him off that they just didn't want him there. And it may not have been that they didn't want him there necessarily, but many teachers may not have the skill set oftentimes to manage a lot of our children with disabilities. And there are many more children that we're seeing right now with autism that are coming in, and the families really need the support. The mother, she even stopped in after a while. I sat down with her because I couldn't take him either. We just didn't have the space. And I made some calls for her, and I felt so bad because she said, I really want to keep my job. I don't want to have to lose. And I'm getting a lot of those kinds of calls where the families are looking for help. And you know what? Some of them really don't want them in a mainstream child care center. They want specific care for their children. And there just isn't any specialized places for that community.
And Andrea, I'm wondering what your experience as a parent. It sounds like you work some non-traditional hours. How has that made your life harder, easier? What have your experiences been?
So I find myself just working evenings, starting from about 4 p.m. till 1 o'clock in the morning. My baby gets up for school at 7:30 in the morning. And I'm just grateful that like we were talking about the hardships of how just to get my baby into some sort of program, and I feel like I had to go through leaps and bounds. And I'm grateful, hearing stories of other people who can't really find a spot. I'm grateful that I found a spot, and I guess I found myself qualified to do so. So working 2 jobs and then struggling, staying up late, and just maintaining a schedule, like I said, my schedule and my baby's schedule. I mean, it's a struggle, but I'm a super mama.
Just a super mama. We obviously have been advocating at this work for a long time, and you've heard from some esteemed folks here who've been doing the work for years and years. And we are very grateful to policymakers for the progress that we've made, and I think we've commented, but how fortunate are we that we had both the governor and his little person and the lieutenant governor and Congresswoman McBride, all of them really expressing how important this issue is to them and showing up for us as we go to do our advocacy. And so I'm wondering what you all have experienced relative to some of those policy wins that we've had. So things like increased access to state-funded pre-K, statewide purchase of care rates, how that has improved or changed the work that you do.
I will say this, that I don't know what my center would do. I did say that I don't have any married couples in my center. It is all single mothers. I don't know what I would do without state-funded pre-K. I don't know what I would do without EHS. I would not be able to do it. I have not lost a staff in over 2 years. I have not lost one, and it all contributes to being a vendor for those programs. Now, I will say this, the median in Delaware is a little over $28,000 for teachers, ECE teachers. That's what they make a year. Because I am in these programs, I'm able to pay my teachers right around $40,000, closer to $50,000. That's not a whole lot, but it's a lot more than a little over $28,000. And yes, put your hands together. That has made all of the difference, along with the benefits. And they're not the type of benefits I received when I was working at DuPont or even in the school district, but there are benefits that they are receiving. Some of the bonuses, they have all made a difference, and people are staying. I have to toot their horn. Many of them they either have a college degree, they're working towards a college degree. Everybody in the center has a CDA, all but one, and you work with her, she's just about done. And then the entire center. I'm saying that to say this. Being in these programs have made all of the difference. Now, if that changes, I'm going to have to make some big changes. Look, going back cannot be an option.
No, it cannot.
We cannot allow it to be an option. Going back to where we were, post-COVID, we can't allow it. We are all going to have to come together, whatever we're going to need to do, like we're all together today. We're going to have to say no. There are some things that we're going to have to stand up to, and quality child care is one.
Yeah, I totally agree with Melanie. What I've noticed, we were suffering with PERSA care for the longest time down in Sussex County. We were fighting and fighting year after year after year. And God bless, this year it's made such a difference. And we hope that will continue. With my families, it's sad to say that when they do get a promotion or they get a couple of pennies or quarters, they don't take it because they will lose their PERSA care. And then once that happens, then we lose them, and those children are not benefited by a quality education. So it's so important that we really advocate to keep the money coming to help not only us as providers, but our families, especially down in Sussex County. I know Tony Dickerson, who is one of our colleagues, she really wanted me to talk a little bit about the services. We definitely need the services to stay down our way. It's so hard now with all the children, who are looking for care, and especially we have several of our autistic little ones in our care, and to be able to have that speech and language, and to be able to have the early health mental consultant come in and work with us. It's so important that we have the opportunity to make that phone call and have them there, and not 2 months later. We need them when we call them. There's a reason why we're calling, and we don't want to say, listen, we can't handle your child anymore. We go far beyond to help these little ones. So it's so very important that these services stay and continue down our way, as well as for Kent and Newcastle.
Thank you. So, Deorna, you are our fresh-faced early childhood student. We're so happy to have you here and in the field. And I wanted to ask you, you've heard a lot about some of the challenges and some of the things that have gotten better. When you think into the future of your career as an early childhood educator, what do you hope looks different?
Well, first let me just start by saying that I have gotten the amazing opportunity of meeting a lot of different people at Delaware State University, a lot of people who are just as passionate about early child care and early childhood students as I am. I just went through the process of TEP program where we had to talk about our experiences and our different things that we've gone through and seen to help us further our career. And let me just tell you guys that there are a lot of amazing future educators that are coming to you soon. So I can first put that out there and kind of help ease you guys and ease those parents who might be worried about who's going to be in their child's classroom in the future, that we're working very hard. I am meeting a lot of hardworking women and men who are trying to become a future educator, not only in early childhood, but throughout the school programs everywhere. The thing that I'm most passionate about is speaking up for those who can't speak for themselves. So hearing all the different point of views from the governor and like you guys, I mean, you guys are amazing to even go out there and take that leap of faith to try to get into this career field. It's very hard, and I don't think that we get enough recognition for what we do. And I definitely think myself as an early care provider, so definitely to see a difference in pay, to see a difference in how far students get with their learning. I mean, it's important, like you said, at the ages from 0 to 5 to pick up on the different things that they're learning. We have to take all these different classes on getting our degree to learn all the different steps that students are going through. So my future is, looks bold, it looks bright.
I love that. We can't wait to meet all of your friends that are doing with you. Deirdre, I have one last question for you. You talked a little bit about some of the challenges of accessing care, and you feel like you were lucky because you were able to navigate it. But what have been some of the benefits that you've seen for you and music in actually being able to have that kind of quality early childhood experience?
I'm grateful for every educator in here, first of all. So I love that to follow you. Like, I'm grateful, just knowing what I had to go through with my daughter, coming 2.5, 3 years old. She had, speech issues. She couldn't really communicate at all. And I don't know if my expectations were too high. I'm Googling all the milestones of like where she should be. So I felt like I was, rightfully concerned, So I tried to reach out to local daycare centers, but they were like, oh, this much money, and I was like, oh, come on. And then I was like, well, let me try, like a local family member who will charge like $40 a day, when that times 5, it's like a weekly electric bill, So then finally I just walked into a state service center, and I was like, I just want to expand her social standing, her, just being out in the world. She is an only child also, so it was like, I just felt like she had to learn from students around her, but I had to figure out, how am I going to get her into these facilities. So, our next step was to have a speech therapist come in, but, that was like 45 minutes per week. And that failed, so then I guess that further qualified me to go ahead and get her into an educational program, pre-K. Now we can tell you he's on the $1 bill. She's a genius. Now she's got where our family member lives and something for her Lincoln. So I was just proud of her. She went from here to a genius.
Just to say that I grew up in a single parent household, so watching my mom work hard, I wasn't in a daycare, me and my brother weren't in a daycare, we were at my grandparents, and thinking about people who don't have those types of family members who are nearby to help. If you are married and both parents have to go to work, what are you supposed to do about your child? So just to say that even the parents, you guys you're owed a lot too, because you do so much to make sure that your child gets as far as you do. And kudos to you for going out and doing what you have to do. Because here she is now, here with all this information go from not knowing enough to knowing everything. That's the most important thing that any educator would want to see and any parent would want to see. So, yes.
Thank you all for sharing your amazing perspectives to look at that. We're going to open it up to the audience. Do you all have questions for the panel or comments that you'd like to share with all of us in the room today? We would love to hear from you. John.
Yeah, I guess I've been doing the, as all of you have, this advocacy work for 5 or 6 years, and we have made each one of those steps along the way, and glad to participate with all of you in making them. I'm very concerned about this year. I mean, we couldn't have more sympathetic governor and lieutenant governor. But with these challenges from Washington and everything else that's going on, everybody is, the Joint Finance Committee and the governor's recommended budget, there's no extra money at all, as far as I know, and please correct me if I've got this wrong, Madeline or whoever's knows, but I don't think there's any extra money for early child care and education this year. And I think that when we talk to our legislators, we have our talking points, but number one is don't you dare go back. And two, don't you dare leave absolutely nothing when we have the case that this is the best investment you could possibly make. It's a tough year for everybody. We're somebody in EC.
Does anybody want to follow Dawn, or should we let that be a mic drop moment?
I just had a question for the
Hi.
audience.
Yes, it is.
It's not really a question, well, it is a question as an adjunct for early ed. I taught here at ADSU for a few semesters. One of the things I saw with the students is they're very passionate about teaching, but how much do they understand about their need to be adding this as they continue to grow as professionals? What are your thoughts on that?
So, okay. We had a event where there were panelists just like this, and we talked about the DIE, I think that's what I say it, I don't say it wrong, sorry. And all education majors had to be there for that conversation. Our professors, Dr. Bowser, they all pushed us to go out and advocate for those who can't. And I didn't really know what to expect when I first started coming to ESU. But once I really got into the curriculum that I had to take and the different things that I had learned, the people that I got to meet, it was just amazing to see, because just like being here today, I guess I never really thought about how many people were actually out there trying to help those who can't help themselves. And they are preparing us big time. And to know that there is so much work going on, I mean, a lot of the education majors were talking about it, and we're like, we're not prepared for this, we're not so we're like this, like, we don't know about this. But we actually are getting the preparation, the different advice, the different inspiration that we need, not only from our professors, but from people just like you who are able to give us the information, the experiences that you guys are all going through, so that we can know how to better move about the situation going into the future. So I really do think that we are very prepared, and if we're not prepared, we are getting there to where we can further help everyone as best as we possibly can.
And to that, as I was speaking to her, we were talking about earlier, and I said, you know what drives you, to even go into early care education? Just knowing what we have to offer. And I said, so what we do when you finish? She said, well, I'll probably go and teach second grade, first, second grade. And then she said, but later on, I want to open my own center, which is wonderful. Okay? But here's the question that I'd like to pose. How do we get some of these students excited about coming into ECE?
Raise salary.
Well, of course, you know we have to go there. But how do we even get them with salaries? And I'm an outlier. And I'm really not paying much in the grand scheme of things. But when you have a mean of a little over 28,000, how do you get these students, as she says, is really excited about going to the field, excited about coming to us?
Well, can I just say
Tell the truth.
we are also prepared to know that this is not a field that you go into for the pay. And I can say that saying that I worked in childcare, I worked at the daycare for 2 years, I helped out at the lab school. For us, it's just the passion. And that's what I love, because you want to go into work being happy about what you're doing. And I know that I don't want to go into my future career being upset, being mad, being stressed. And I know that it's stressful. I know it's a stressful field, but we don't do it for the money. We are prepared to do it just because this is what we want to do. We decided to go out of high school and into college, taking on this big plan of the different things that we have to offer, the different things that we want to offer. And just hearing about the different things that people don't get, this is more of a reason why we do things like this. And I hope that in the future a lot more education majors will be here so that we can all, fellowship with you guys and just talk and connect about the different things that are going on, because we are the future. We are. We're next up. And to know that we have people and footsteps to follow like you guys, that's just something that we're prepared for. We are preparing for. And I promise you guys, we're coming.
I love that mindset, but we also need to be able to pay them what they're worth.
One more question. I saw it at the end of the back.
Good morning, everyone. I'm kind of loud. My name is Ashley S. K. Davis. I'm with Delaware Institute for Arts and Education in Delaware. Hello, Dr. Yes. And so we do not provide direct services to children, but rather we partner with different schools and Head Start centers to provide teacher professional development. So we've been kind of looking at all of the shifts that have been happening on the federal level, and we recognize the challenges that we've heard from our peers and our partners. And what is my question? The arts are also at this intersection. It lives at this intersection of arts and education. And so we are constantly looking at the ways in which we know that early childhood education and the process of art making are both essential to make sure that communities are thriving. And also, those are often the first things that are on a child about, which is the reason why we're here today to help support the efforts by the DAC. Even though we want to advocate loudly and strongly, the reality is we kind of have to be ready for what the next step might look like. I know many of the child care centers are just recovering after COVID, just getting students back in, just getting staff back in, because as you said, it doesn't pay well, and that is the truth of it. In the event that things at the national level don't shake down the way that we think that we would like them to, in the event that things don't shift from Governor Myers' budget and markup by Joint Finance Committee, what is the worst case scenario that you want to see? And what do we need to do as not only service providers, but peer organizations and advocates? What do we need to do under ourselves based on what you are seeing and feeling? So that's a little bit of that.
I think the worst situation for me would be the programs in. Programs like Early Head Start, programs like state funded, because once they end for me, it means that the extra staff that we have, either I would have to lay off. I'm just being real with you. I would either have to lay off, or I would have to talk about how much I'm paying them right now. Because I would not be able to afford to pay the salaries that I pay now. I just wouldn't be able to do it. So a lot of the things that we're doing now, it would be off the table. And to be honest with you, the majority of folks that are in those programs, I don't even know how they do it. So the goal is that we continue to march. There is no stopping. We continue to march to make sure that a lot of them are pulled up so that people are making more money and that we're seeing a difference for the entire family, holistically.
So I will say, I'm glad the DOE is out of the room. I can say this freely because we do have partners in the administration and at DOE, and we did the fire drill when Early Head Start and Head Start said, we're gonna get no money. Heidi got my frantic phone call of like, what does this mean? A lot of people in this room got those phone calls. But we have an administration, and we had a prior administration, and we cannot let that be seen. Governor, former mayor, or former governor, now Mayor Carney, Mayor Carney. This was an investment that he made that will actually enable us not to have to go into panic mode. And I say that with a lot of confidence, that if we end federal dollars, and I also will hesitate that I think we'll keep federal dollars but end support. So there are a lot of ways that we will maybe have more flexibility with those dollars. I think our kids are okay. I don't know if the service, the extra people that come with Early Head Start, our social workers, our family support specialists, those are the conversations that are really gonna have to be a question. But we've also increased our budget so that 2/3 of our POC budget is state money. We only get about 1/3 from the feds. So we have prioritized early education so that when we have this fire drill, when we have an administration that maybe doesn't value children, that we here in Delaware have. So, but it's also, that's the conversation we have to continue having with our legislators here in Delaware, is if we start to fall backwards on that funding, that it took us 20 years behind, now we're maybe only 10 years behind.
But you know what, that could happen though.
Oh, it could.
And I need to start having those conversations. It could happen.
Wherever John is, I can't see him right now, that is truly the message that we need to move forward, is we can't let the investment that we've made fall short.
So thank you, everyone. Can we get a round of applause for our awesome panelists? Thank you, guys. And I'm going to hand this off to Kata.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much. I don't have enough words, but thank you all so much for being here. Before anybody gets up, I want you all to take out your phones, and hover over this QR code that is on the screen. We love to be proactive at First Aid Pre-K. So take out your phones, hover over the QR code, and take this survey for me. Yes. Ooh. It's not working. It does? Okay.
A program called Live Eat Low Income. I actually set that up and was the first national director of it under Jimmy Carter, which gives you a sense of how old I am and how long I've been around. But then I also worked for 40 years with Tom Carper in his various iterations. So I've also been lobbied. And so I can kind of bring you that perspective too, because I've had a lot of people talk. I was Secretary of State for a number of years. In the last 25 years, I've been at the University of Delaware at the Biden Institute. I think the one thing I would say, and I agree with Don, we need to be firm. We're all committed, and we really, really are committed to this issue. I hooked on this issue when Tom was governor back in the 90s, and we started ECAP, and I've been a true believer ever since. But remember when you go over to talk to the legislators, try to put yourselves in their shoes. Because even today, I can guarantee you there's going to be a whole big bunch of folks over there lobbying for things that they also think are frightfully important to them and to the people they represent. So when you go in there, remember that the people you're talking to are being lobbied by a lot of people. And Jamie just made some important comments here about how far we've come and how responsive they've been to us. So the first two things I would focus on. One, this is so simple, but I would introduce myself right out of the gate. Don't assume they know you. It used to drive me crazy when somebody comes and say, well, you remember me. You know, I met him 7 years ago at a town meeting, with all due respect. So it really helps if right out of the gate you say, hi, Senator, hi, Representative, I'm Ed. I met you a while ago, but it's just really great. And thank you, and I would move the thank you up to my number 2 point. Thank you for everything the legislature and Governor Carney and Governor Meyer will do for early ed. And then go into your pitch, whether you are a provider, whether you are a parent, whether you're an advocate like I am, to explain why you're there and what's important. And you've got in your handout here some key points that we want to make, even though we know there's no specific money in the budget. That doesn't mean some money may not come on the table by the end of the year. And if it does, this is one of the places we want them to be looking. So with that, I'll turn it over to my colleagues.
Hello. All right. So a full circle moment, that LAHI program that Ed was talking about during my junior year of college, I actually installed one of those ACs down the street at a low-income community to support. So there you go.
We protected it for 45 years, and right now it's really under the gun down in Washington. But when I left, when Ronald Reagan decided I'd have a bright future in the private sector, one of the things that I did was become involved with folks who are lobbying to protect LAHI. And so
full circle.
We're fighting for it still.
So what I heard is start with a thank you, share your name, and then go into the talking points and merging your story into those talking points. Now we have a few people to my right who have done this part, right? Whether speaking at GFC or consistently talking to their legislator about early care and education. So we'll go to Lisa first about those JFC members that you've spoken to and given public comment to, and their reaction and how they have received your advocacy.
Thanks, Kata. Yes, I've been to JFC meetings now for the last 7 years, I think, consecutively. And what I do there is read statements, typically from parents or educators who are unable to attend. So saying, I know we've said this a lot today, Daisy is the voice for young children, but also for parents and educators. And this year I was honored to read from parents who were having trouble accessing care. And I think that the longer I've done this, the more reactions I've gotten from the Joint Finance Committee. And I can also hear more poignant questions coming out in their discussions. And I think I just have a little piece of advice, I think, for those who maybe haven't done this before, or maybe you have and it's a nerve-wracking thing. It is nerve-wracking. But these individuals are there because we voted them there, and we are their constituents, right? And I say this a lot, but my representative, I went to high school with, right? So, Delaware is a small space, and it's not to say that we can't speak to politicians. We can. We can speak plainly. We can use their stories, but they are there because we elected them there. And so it's part of their responsibility to hear what we have to say. So if that helps with giving confidence, and they are asking very much more poignant questions about early ed access and all of that. So I will say that the response has been, like I said, over the years, it's been more and more impactful, our work and the response that we've received.
I think what I'm hearing is this is not a one and done. This is just the beginning. Okay. Over to you, Christy.
Hi, I'm Christy Galene, and I am a former kindergarten teacher. I'm an early childhood
graduate from the Ohio State. I have to always say there.
Well.
Yeah. And I started, as a preschool teacher. I taught 3-year-olds until I could get a public school job in Pennsylvania, which paid very well. And also moved into the principalship. And I was a principal of a primary school. So I loved working with teachers and parents of young children. And I just have to tolerate this, but today, when those little children came in and they said we're moving up, I had tears in my eyes because I remember the kids coming to my kindergarten from the preschools and the child care center, and I was singing along back there with them. So it's true, it's in your heart, and it never leaves. So I moved here, retired here, and I live in Milford. And I came from suburban Philadelphia. And I wanted to get to know my legislators. So I went to a local, meet and greet or coffee or whatever, and I have 2 legislators. One is young and the other not so much. And I approached them both in the same way, introduced myself. I just moved here. I'm so happy to be in Delaware. I'm from Pennsylvania. And I got the same look by both of them, like, you're going to tell us what to do. And I did not tell them what to do. I told them I was an educator, and I was especially interested in early childhood education because when I worked for the Department of Ed in the state of Pennsylvania, we were sent to Delaware to learn about the 5-star program. And we loved it. We met Governor Markell. It was just wonderful. We went back and we did it, and they're still doing it. And when I moved here 10 years later, I thought, so help me understand what has happened. So that was my question to them. My opening remark was, where are we with early child care here in Delaware? Because that's something so important. And I got an answer from the younger, well, I can say who it is. Sure. Representative Shoup, and he's on the education, and I already knew he was on the education committee. So you do your homework about who your representatives are, find out how they voted on certain bills, and go in with all of that so you have an opportunity to drop a hook. And I was a public school teacher. I was trained by the American Federation of Teachers on how to negotiate, and it's the best training ever I had because I learned there. You meet people where they are so you can take them where they need to go. And I negotiated on both sides of the table, and I used that, and I had it used on me. So it's like being lobbied and lobbying. It's a similar situation. So I went in knowing a little bit about them, so do your homework and have a sense of what they voted on, and maybe ask a question. I see you voted for, or you didn't vote for a specific bill. Help me understand why. And so I asked that question, and I got a very data-driven, intelligent answer from Mr. Shoup because that's him, and he's that's just his personality. From Senator Wilson, no, he's not. Is he a representative? Well, Dave Wilson. He quickly started calling me hon, and I was okay with that. I'm part of the American Association of University Women. We've been advocating for women for over 100 years, and we don't want to be called hon. But I let him call me hon, and I gave him my name. He said, "Hon, here in Delaware, our moms take care of their grandchildren, and that's how we do it. It's the mom model." Ha ha ha. So I said, "Oh well, that's so interesting." And because there are families that don't. What about the families that don't have a mom, a grandma, an aunt? Well, yeah, I guess that's a problem for them. And I said, what can you do about that? So I don't know. And I said, can I send you some information? He said, sure, hon. And I looked for it. So I went home and I found him something gentle to email him, and I emailed him that information. Now this was
10 years ago. That's how we started. So I'd see him at the road. Hi, Chrissy. I didn't correct him. My name is Christy. How you doing, hon? I got your email, and we had this relationship. Did you read my email, Dave? Yeah, and it's, you know, so you develop that relationship, and can I send you more information? I started sending him more information, and it was probably 5 years down the road where I saw him at the Wawa, and he came over to me and said, my granddaughter just had a baby. And you know what? Her mother's not going to watch the baby because she's still working. I'm so glad you sent me that information. So it sort of turned him, you know, into reality. And I said, well, how about I'll send you some more? And he was very open to that. So we now have this little ongoing, you know, lovely relationship where I can approach him about specific bills, and he listens and he pays attention. My other representative, I just stand up at the community meetings and I give him data because that's what he wants, and I know that. So, you know, Brian, he was supporting a bill, an education bill, and he didn't have a fiscal note, and I said, Brian, you're going to have a fiscal note because if you want teachers to do this, they need training. So you have to have a fiscal note to give them tools. You can't give them teachers to tell them you have to do this without giving them the tools how to do it. And he was so appreciative. I mean, it was really because, like, yes, I have to spend money. So I think, you know do your homework and then build a relationship. You have to build that talking point. And I would never tell a woman to allow someone to call her hon, but sometimes you just have to smile and roll with it because you got to get them where they need to go. The other thing I will share is be a good listener. Be a really good listener. So we were all at a forum, was it just a month ago? And legislators were there, and part of the program was early care and education. And before they got to our part of the program, the three of us were, and we were talking about the representative who was on the panel and about how difficult and resistant. And Madeline said his tune will change once he has a grandchild. And I said, that's right, because that's what happened with Dave Wilson. That's the Dave Wilson story. You know, it will change. Lo and behold, he opens his remarks with, I just had a grandchild. I need to know about early. And I think we all got whiplash looking at each other like, bingo, it's our chance. You know, and so that's know the family history too. And not only did he have a grandchild, but his daughter's a teacher in Milford School District, so now I have something to talk to him about. And Grandma is the babysitter, and I know Grandma will be the babysitter. Well, it's an infant, but once that kid starts weighing 20 pounds, she's not gonna, because I've seen that happen.
They move, they don't want to.
Once they move, it's like, you gotta move on. So, so there's that, I have that connection with him. The other panelists that I observed, and I bet you heard it too, they were asked, what are your constituents saying? Similar question. And this, Mr. Senator Townsend, I regret that he's not my representative because it was prime. He just sort of, now he'd been there all morning and he was, you know, his personality was his personality. But he was sort of condescending in that he said, we're not asking you anything about childcare because they're worried about paying their electric bill. And then he went on to share how much he really cares about early child care and yada, 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 because every day when I drop my children off, I'm so grateful that we have this great child care. And that stuck with me. His family has it. What are you doing with the families that don't? So that would have been my talking point with him, how I would have approached him. I would use the data that we have on I have to stop talking. Okay. I see people moving. So that be a good listener too, and savor those, hold that, because I'll see Brian Townsend someday, and I will bring it up. So
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out, in case you guys didn't know, we got these amazing folders
Yeah.
this year
Yes.
that we didn't get in previous years. These are awesome. So
The
to
data
point
is in there.
of
Yeah.
getting to know your rep, they went and they found your house and your Senate rep for your district where you live, and that information is in there. So this is
A
excellent.
tool. It's a
Yeah.
great tool. It's a great tool. And use it, you know. I'm done now. I did great.
I just wanted to make another comment too. Something that I talk a lot with, I would say younger generations, but I'm speaking to everyone. The local level is really where the democracy lives, right? So if you're not already active with your local governments, your local elections, start getting involved because that's where the democracy lives, right? In addition, our school boards. Christina's school district just had an election for new school boards.
Everybody does today.
Oh, today, right now. So again, though,
As we speak.
vote for your school board members because they're going to be making the decisions on how that budget is spent. So just thinking about, I think a lot of times we forget about the local elections and even that school board elections. They're really important. So just advocating that you get out there and vote at that local level.
And also, I would say Delaware is unique and it's such a small state. I came from Pennsylvania where I never met my representative. I saw him on TV, or saw him from afar, or her. And you have that chance to go and actually, talk to them at the Wawa.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or go to high school with them.
Delaware is very small.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing is build that relationship.
Yeah.
Do research on your legislator.
Yep.
Connect with them. Those odds and ends spots, the Wawa, the Rofo, the Walmart, where they are going, where they are going on a regular basis, is prime opportunity to continue to build that relationship. We got from Ed of walking into that space with confidence, sharing how you know them, saying thank you. From Lisa, making sure that they know the talking points, but they also know your story. And we got from Christy, continuing to build that relationship, continuing to work on that relationship, meet them where they are. Sometimes, as Christy said, you gotta walk them where you need them to be.
Yeah.
And it might be slow, it might be fast, but you gotta continue walking them where they need to be. So, as you walk into legislative hall, remember, they are just like you. They work for you, and this is your opportunity to let them know why early care and education is so important to you, your family, your community, and the people living around you, and to the state. Because we need our kids, our youngest learners, to have every single opportunity to be the best adults they can be, and that's through early care and education. You want to say something, Ed?
Yeah, I could. I'll be real brief. Just again, a couple of real concrete points to kind of summarize what you've heard here, but it is important to try to keep the relationship going. This is just one day of the relationship. If you see that your representative or senators have coffees at the local brouhaha or whatever, go there. It's a great opportunity to get to know them. The other thing you might have an opportunity to do is to meet their staff. And let me just tell you how important it is to know their staff. Because what you want to have happen is when an issue does come up and they have some questions about it, you want that staff person to pick up the phone. Early Ed, I met this person, they've been very helpful. That's who I'm going to call. So you really want to build a relationship with the member, build a relationship with the staff, and take every opportunity to interact with them. Remember, they have tough jobs, and so what we want to do is try to make their job a little bit easier. Do we have time for questions?
Yeah, we have a few minutes, so I want to hand it back to the audience. If there's any questions that you all have, any thoughts, comments? Yes.
So mine's a comment from I'm with Delaware Libraries, and one of our little tips and tricks is some of us actually bring gifts to kind of sweeten them up to open our conversations. So the past 2 years, I've brought baked goods, homemade baked goods. I'm Southern. I'm originally from Georgia, so President Carter connection there. 2 degrees of separation from Delaware, learned that tidbit moving here. But my great grandmother's homemade pound cake this year, and like I put Delaware Library sticker on it, so like when they opened it, they have to see it. I've also seen library staff bring like homemade jams or like fudge. I brought taffy last year, so it's just ways to like brand yourself, bring your business card attached to it, but ways that like you stick in their mind, because they get papers every day when they have visitors, but just bring a little something extra that helps you stick in their mind. Like I said, today's probably a little late to whip that up unless you want to grab by Target, Wawa. But for future advocacy days, it's another way to just keep you in the forefront of their minds.
And as I said, this is not a one and done. This is just the beginning. So next week, you can still show up to their office and say, I brought you some pound cake. Remember me? Yes, and that's a thank you.
When I was Secretary of State, some of you may remember, there was a wonderful woman named Bee who lobbied for the blind. And she would make pies, these incredible pies, and she would I'm not arguing you do this, by the way, but I mean, you know, but she would bring the buzz in Legislative Hall when the word got out that Bee was coming. I mean, you know, she was very effective, let me just tell you. She got a lot done for the blind with her pies. She was a wonderful lady.
Are there any other questions in the audience?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
I'm a teacher in a classroom, and I have been with my company many years. And one of the hardest things for me to see as a teacher and also as a parent in the outside community is the need for the childcare, the wait list that the childcare has had. How can I be that advocate to reach out to our representatives to say, hey, we need more quality care and we need this to be taken care of and arose? And I understand a lot of teachers are advocating for salaries and higher salaries. I'm blessed in where I work for a company where we are taken care of, but how can I reach out to them to say, hey, we need better child care or we need more child care? In a classroom, I can walk by our phones, and 99% of the phones is somebody needing to be put on our wait list. And it's heartbreaking. I hear every story, and I sit and I listen to their stories, whether it's a single mom or someone that just moves here. So how can we reach out to them and say, we need more child care, we need better, more qualified teachers, whatever it may be? How can I reach out to them and say that this is something on my heart, how I take care of it?
We have a lot of tools that can help you with that, number one. Number two is what I would recommend is looking up the representative where your center is located, right?
When they come out to our houses through the summer as, elections are coming, whatever, that's one of the first things.
Do you live in the same district as your center? Is that the same district as your center? Because you might have a different representative.
I thought
Yeah.
you were saying the center, I'm sorry.
Oh no, the center, the child care program that you work, yeah. So I think that that's important, knowing who the rep is for that particular program, number one. I think that's great. Daisy has postcards, and you are welcome to take a handful of them and write postcards and send them in and kind of be reiterating those things. And First Aid Pre-K made really beautiful dossiers for every single representative. You don't even need to let me have one second. In your folders, there should be a dossier specific to your location, and this actually gives them, there you go. This gives them the data that you can use to kind of educate them, right? Because it's important to teach as well. So teach them, tell them how many children are in their district, how many children need care, and talk about these issues with them. But I would definitely pinpoint who that rep is. Done.
I don't know if it's going to be possible today. Some of the representatives, the senators are not available, or you may not be available to go over to Legislative Hall. But if you do go to Legislative Hall and they're not available, perhaps you could. The folders are set up so there's one folder for your rep and one for your senator. Write a note on a post-it, put it on the front of it, and this really matters to me. Let me read it behind. Maybe you could give me a call or put an email address or something.
Absolutely. If you're able to come to the Leg Hall with us, we can certainly walk in and kind of see who's there. And you're right, leave them a little note. We have postcards, like I said, that are kind of evergreen postcards that have children on front that say invest in early ed. And so you can fill out one of those too from your center. And it's just, I think, about educating and keep doing it. Because it's not a one and done like Kate is saying. It's not. It's something that you're going to have to kind of, educate and continue to fight for. But we can certainly help you do that with some of these resources.
Is that electronic?
Yes, so it's
available.
available.
Access that actually electronically from the first aid pre-K site and send it in an email as an introduction, to your legislator.
And they're updated.
And start the conversation that way.
They've been updated recently with the new data, and also I think we were,
Okay. So we're gonna go to Linda, to Kim, and then to Jamie.
So just my comment on the sleeper piece actually in Suffolk County. I have been board chair of Suffolk Montessori School, which opened in Seaford Charter School. And then we had the opportunity with Montessori Works, which I also happen to be board chair, to consider opening a preschool program in that area. Very challenging thought to do. We really tabled it because of the cost of facility. And so when we talk about expanding early childcare, we need to be cognitive, and we need to be talking about expanding facilities. Facilities are full, right? They don't have spaces. We need to build more facilities for early childcare. And that is something that I've not even heard on the table in conversation, but if we're in shape of capacity, we need to figure that out.
absolutely. And we do talk about the deserts. There are several childcare deserts in Delaware. And there is data for that too. So that can certainly help in those conversations about a desert and a need.
So just for people behind that, one of the small unknown things in Delaware is that charter schools are not allowed to run preschools. We would all like to run preschool programs that would allow for the expansion of preschool in Delaware and opportunities for preschools. Many of us are not want to find this kind of starting allowed to do that. So that's another piece that's not known.
We'll continue to have those open conversations. I'm going to move to Kim and then pass it over to Jamie to close us out. But thank you all so much for being here before we move over to Legislative Hall to advocate.
Thank you.
Nice job, Kate.
So my name is Kim Brida. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the owner of the Little Caboose Child Care Center in Newark, and I'm also the president of the board of directors for Daisy. So just two quick things. The first one, I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't know your name. You were the first one. Dawn. My name is Dawn. So my best advice for you would be, you don't need a magic formula. The way you spoke was compelling.
Yeah.
Be sincere and just be honest. Say, I really don't know how to express the importance of this to you.
Yeah.
But this is important, and this is why. And I think you can have all the fancy words you want, and you can have all the pre-written speeches that you want, but the way that you spoke to us was compelling. That is important to you. And I think that's what you need to remember when you go in. Be yourself.
Yeah.
That's it.
Speak from the heart.
And then the second thing is, to your point, was it Sharon? Linda. I don't know where I got Sharon, sorry. I think we do need to start having a conversation about infrastructure. And I think we need to start bringing that up in these types of settings, that it is important to have these discussions about expansion, about needing more facilities, and getting infrastructure dollars specifically put towards early child care for those programs. So I think Jamie will speak to it. There's probably more coming on that, but yes, you're keying in on something that is important. Yeah.
I'm just going to wrap up and say thank you. Thank you to our panelists. I will say one of the things that Ed did mention is that throughout his lifetime of work in all public sector, he has mentored along the way and supported new leaders and the next generation, and he passes the torch really amazingly and elevates those who he believes in. And I think that that's also important, because when we get up here, now I'm used to this, but I really got here because one of my preschool teachers decided to run for office. One of my parents, when I was a preschool teacher, decided to run for office. That all got confused. Her name is Krista Griffith, and she heard from a friend of hers that, I like to talk. She's not wrong. I helped her launch an event for her candidacy because I believed in what she stood for. and then magically a month later became her campaign director. I do not recommend this path for anyone. But we're all neighbors. Sarah McBride says it best that we are a state of neighbors here. And when I was just looking into this audience now, but also a few that have left, I went to high school with 7 people that were in this room. I grew up with Madeline, unbeknownst to us, when we walked into the first room that we were in together as adults.
I know your mom.
My mom went to high school with Ed's wife. We see each other in Dewey every year. I mean, when it really comes down to it, I know that you can find our lieutenant governor on the Tallyville girls softball fields watching her girls play softball every Saturday. Like, it is really easy to reach your legislators, and you don't have to be someone to do it. I will also say that sometimes it does help to be persistent. It is a common word used to describe me. But I think it's important. So as we walk over to Legislative Hall, every single time you introduce yourself to a legislator, they get that memory. And they will start to hear it, and they will start to remember your names. Some people are just not good with names. But what we're going to do when we go over there is, we have lunch. That is in the cafeteria of the building. The elevators are really, really small, but there are also stairs. On the second floor, we're really excited. Lakeshore Learning Partners has set up a classroom in the Lieutenant Governor's office. The Lieutenant Governor's office that is in Legislative Hall. Don't go to the Tappan building. No one will let you in. But they have a sample classroom that's focused on literacy and STEM, since that's a big thing that everybody's talking about in those kindergarten, 3rd grade reading tests. And then also in that, we'll be able to do postcard writing if you're not able to meet your legislator. We will also be over to their support if you're looking and you're like, hey, I want to go meet my legislator today. How do I do that? We'll have people over there that can help you find A, where they're located. The building is not well marked. And B, support you in doing that. We'll also have a table on the 2nd floor of Legislative Hall. It's a great place because legislators and their staff will stop by and be like, what's this group? Because that's one of their staff's job every day, is really to see what groups are in that building. Introduce yourself to them. Again, you don't know who you're going to meet. One of the DSEA, I think she's president, I forget Taylor's title.
Legislative.
Yeah, legislative. Her mom owned a child care center. She's a huge advocate for early education. You don't know who you're going to meet and who is going to become our next best advocate. So I always just say, introduce yourself to everyone. There's a lot of LAs that are also sitting there thinking, crap, all I hear about is how expensive childcare is. And I'm 25 and eventually want to have kids. How am I going to afford this? At one point in time, there were 7 lobbyists who had all had children within 4 months of one another, and there was nowhere for them to breastfeed in my call. There is now. But I think that this is all to say that, like, while I hate having to legislate based on personal experience, of like, oh, you didn't care until you had a grandchild. Oh, you didn't care until it impacted you. We should care because it's what's best for our state. It's what's best for our children. But when we move forward, tell your story. It matters. Dawn, that's the story we need to hear. Because they can hear from me all day long, like, there's a center in Seaford that has a 15-person wait list. There's a center in whatever. They know what we're going to say. Yeah. But if they hear it directly from the folks that are experiencing it, it means so much more. So thank you. We're going to wrap up here. Yep. I think that's everything. Yep. We're going to move over to Legislative Hall. I don't actually know how to do that, so put it in your GPS. And thank you all for coming.
Terrific job, my dear. Thank you. Of course. See you in Ledger.